And now, some quick thoughts from Man.
Well, y'all already know what time it is.
Stop! Pizza time!
Obviously not, you crazies. It's that time where I take a look at some anime shows I either missed or didn't feel needed a full video dedicated to it. I'll even be covering some web shows and movies. So let's stop thinking about our inevitable impending doom due to our own selfish needs and dive right in. Okay, I'll admit City of Ghosts was something I was fighting myself on whether I should do a general thoughts. It mainly had to do with the fact that I couldn't think of a way to justify a whole video about it. It has good moments that I enjoy, but it's one of those cases of being fairly niche. That being said, this is definitely a very pleasant and charming series. I really enjoy the documentary style it goes for. It just adds a nice touch of realism with a good touch of coziness to it all. You basically just sit back, relax, and watch without having too much to think about other than the nice little details that are laid throughout. It gives these small details about LA like tourism sites and all that, and even the history of these particular spots and some of the residents that live there, or in this case, used to live there or frequent that spot. It has a unique styling that sets it apart from other animated shows that just adds a great aesthetic. You feel like you're on a vacation just getting a nice tour of the town. It's just visually pleasing to the eye with its photorealistic backgrounds and the way it blends the animated characters in. It's just gorgeous. The characters all sound natural, like actual people who live in the area, so when they go into detail about the history of the place, it just adds a feeling of authenticity to everything. It'll make you want to go visit these places for real, I mean, and I genuinely want to take a trip down to these areas. It's honestly nice to get something that's far removed from any series you've seen. I do feel it would be tricky for the show to find a strong audience because of how fresh of an idea it is. Like, if you don't really care for LA or even its residents, you're probably not gonna have much investment in it. It has really cute and nice characters that are pretty low-key in their execution. I like the ghost angle they went with by having deceased residents hanging around their favorite places and a group of kids uncovering the mystery of a haunting that's going on there. It's all really just a very nice show to sit back and relax to. Nothing too bombastic, just a plain cozy watch. I definitely can recommend it. A fairly interesting pilot to say the least. Alpha Beta's premise being about some organization powering the world through video games and making sure players continue playing by getting rid of any bugs or hackers definitely calls for a lot of series potential. You do get a lot of the ideas of playing video games, particularly, the dude bro attitude that can come with it. The main team alphas are basically just that, just a bumbling group of idiots that somehow get the job done. It has some pretty funny moments with the team just being total jackasses, either through their unabashed incompetence or just plain pride or egos getting in the way of things. Like, it's always funny when they just kind of fuck up and you just have to see them fuck up. It honestly gets a good laugh out of me. The game parodies are a nice touch, but I do feel it's a little surface level. Granted, it is the pilot, so them using stuff like Red Dead Redemption is fair to use. I would hope we see more obscure stuff and see how they use that type of property, like go deeper, use Star Fox or some shit. Like deep dive that or something. Granted, that's not obscure, but that's neither here nor there. It's pretty interesting and has moments that get you to want to see what's gonna happen next by having a bit of a stinger at the end. I would want to see this become a full series and see the potential it has. It definitely has a lot to offer, and I honestly think a full series could allow them to reach that potential. I'm blaming Leia from Toon Ruins for getting me hooked onto My Pride. Ain't no shit about it, but now I need more. Seriously, a series about lesbian lions? I had to see what's up. And goddamn does it go beyond anything. This starts off so frickin' dark and bloody. Like, right off the bat, you got 3 kids' father dying, one of the kids being killed by the murderer of their father. Like, damn, you already got me interested with the lion angle, but throw in all this, and geez, I gotta figure out what's happening next. I'd somewhat equate it to Lion King, but unhinged. Basically, it gets to the nitty and gritty of the idea of prides with its use of traditional politics and actually really diving into how rough it can be being a lion. It gets into stuff like the old farts that are in charge and all about order and tradition and that crap. It low-key gets me invested in it all. It has a pretty engaging story that gets you by the second episode and makes you want to find out more of what's to come. The character of Nothing, which the name was literally given to her by her mother, like holy fuck, is sympathetic as hell with all the crap that happens to her. Her arm gets permanently damaged to the point she can't hunt, she watched her father die and got scarred for life by the guy who did it, and everyone in her pride, Smooth, hates her. It's like she was born and life just decidedly said, I'm gonna fuck your life up. It sucks you into the pure unadulterated drama filled with a lot of heavy shit. Seriously, you got blood, discussions of abandoning a child, ostracization from family, homophobia, suicide ideation, all that traumatic shit. It cuts deep with the major uses of having to conform to society's wants. I really like the idea of the prides being so stuck on tradition that it hurts those that live in it. Not being okay with the same-sex relationships, mistreating each other just because the old way said so and all that. The deep-seated lore of the lion gods and goddesses really adds on to the world building, especially when you find out about why the traditions are the way they are. I honestly love the whole story that's presented here. It cuts deep in terms of having you question what's the right thing to do and what's sustainable. Should you change things around for the better or keep tradition going because it just feels the easiest? Nothing's relationship with Hover, you get pulled heavy into that drama. They're a nice couple, but the traditions of the lions completely get in the way for them, almost destroying their relationship. The relationship between Nothing and Feather is also very genuine, and I love how Nothing develops from the experience. You get a strong sense of care coming from her, and I love how the tension starts to rise between them, with him being idealistic while she's stuck on just trying to survive. It very much keeps the tension high, and you very much are on the edge of your seat, because when I say the creator and crew believe in anything can happen, believe in that shit. You got heartbreak, betrayal, murder constantly, characters you thought were great grow to be total assholes. Seriously, do not get attached to anyone unless it's the main character, because no matter what, anything can happen to them. The rules make no exception. It bitch slaps you with all of it, and the great thing is, it's all so well acted and paced. The animation fits nicely by having strong expressions on the characters. It's limited in its movements, so it can come across a bit like a motion comic, but it's damn good with how clever their use of motion is and where they put the fluidness. It does a good job blending hand-drawn and riggings in terms of its animation. You can find all of this fantastic series on YouTube on the channel Tribble of Doom. This show needs love, absolutely. It just wrapped up season 1 and absolutely needs more. They're on hiatus until they can find someone to fund a second season, and I say we need to get some attention to this series. It's too damn good and it needs to continue. Seriously, go to the channel and go watch it. This is ultimately a fine enough show. It's pretty inoffensive. The characters are kind of a typical bunch of idiots, with one character being the voice of reason. It's not anything big or new, just general silliness you'd expect from a series about a leaf, a stick, a rock, and a strawberry. I like the look it has with it having a dirty vibe, since you know it's supposed to take place in a backyard, particularly like in a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type of way, where everything's sort of big but everyone else is small. Granted, they're just sticks and leaves, stuff you find in a backyard, but that's neither here nor there. It does adhere to lull random humor a lot of animated comedies do, so it's really up to whether or not you want to deal with that. I remember hearing about this show and thinking it probably wasn't going to make that big an impression on me, and for the most part, I was right. It's not bad, but it's nothing that great either. You could probably just leave it on as background noise while you're drawing or something. I kind of like the angle they went for with this series. Just this random demon living in this family's house and their youngest daughter is basically his ward. It just screams funny and it doesn't disappoint. Dylan just being this little girl that goes along with all the crazy shit Golem wants to do is hilarious, with the fact that she's so little and not that strong. Also, her just wanting to be evil is just adorable. Something like this could have dipped into being too abhorrent in like violence and sex, but it's more reserved, which is definitely unexpected considering the show shares some crew drawn together. You managed to just have it focus more on the jokes and the dialogue, which is a nice change of pace, whereas it could have easily just been more lowbrow in its execution. It did get rebooted by the second season though, which is just strange, and it ultimately doesn't matter since at this point this show is canceled. I still recommend it on Hulu, but that is just something to be aware of. This one is based on a game that I did not play, but is surprisingly pretty interesting. The whole kids fighting evil monsters in their hometown thing is something you'd expect, but the whole aesthetic draws you in. This show screams autumn from the use of browns and oranges. This is definitely something great to watch during Halloween. It kind of gives me Klasky Chupo vibes with how it looks, you know, with a bit of roughness on the textures and all those lines that they would use sometimes for their background work. It really plays into that style while giving it a timeless feel. There's not much modern things in it, so you get that feeling of being in the 80s, like stuff like Stranger Things would emulate. Granted, there are some modern things in it, but it leaves it so open to being timeless. The characters are a nice bunch that get a lot of development. The kids manage to have moments of their own personal growth, whether it be them facing the fact that they're getting older or learning to never meet their heroes, or even not being able to trust their own town since anyone can be a monster. It gives great moments of growth and reflection for them. I mean, seriously, these kids may need therapy after their whole thing with some of the crazy shit they face. I love the soundtrack for this. You could think of it like a modern update to Charlie Brown music. It just fits with the tone of the show that it's going for. And I was genuinely surprised to find out the music was done by the Blasting Company. You know, the same people that did the music for Over the Garden Wall. So it's honestly no wonder it's so good. They know how to make music that fits a fall aesthetic, I tell you now. The characters are a fun bunch. They have this vibe of just kids in town hanging out when they suddenly have to save the day. I do enjoy its sense of continuity because you know it could easily just bail on that and stick to status quo as God. Stuff from previous episodes tends to bleed into the next. It even builds onto a bigger story and you want to find out more of what's going on. It's just something that keeps you hooked in. I really enjoy the overall design this show has. The costumes they come up with are all unique, and it's impressive that they come up with new ones each episode. It just oozes creativity with whatever costume someone wears and how it affects the story. It kind of falls in line to Monster Squad territory with them having to battle monsters, so you might get a very nostalgic feel of everything, including with how the characters interact with each other. It is a bit simple, but it's a super fun watch, especially if you've been wanting an animated Halloween themed show. It's all on Amazon's Prime, so it's something to give a look. Seriously, you're gonna really enjoy this show. It really sucks you in by the first episode. I definitely cannot recommend it enough. Seriously, go watch and enjoy Costume Quest. It needs some love. I honestly had no major expectations for the show. I like the Harvey Birdman series, especially with all the Hanna-Barbera characters they would throw in. This series definitely went in a different direction than the original. For instance, none of the Hanna-Barbera characters are here. It was odd for a second, but it keeps the general wackiness with new characters. It doesn't get crude or vulgar and just keeps things to a degree like a clean adult series, if that makes any sense. That's something it does retain from the old show. I wasn't expecting them to do a sort of character psyche dive with Birdgirl, her being conflicted with her dad and only being vested in her alter ego and wanting to separate herself from the crazy behavior her dad approved of. Gets you on board with where they plan on taking the series. I say Birdgirl is definitely worth tuning into. The Willoughbys is ultimately a pretty nice movie. Well, about as nice as they could be, considering it's about a group of children that have absolute garbage parents, and it takes full advantage of that idea. I mean it, you don't get any redemption from the parents, and I think that's pretty refreshing. They could have easily made it about the kids reconnecting to their parents, but they stick true to how awful they really are. It's definitely different from other animated movies we usually get. I do enjoy how the kids are portrayed, with Tim being this neurotic traditions guy, Jane being more happy-go-lucky but a troublemaking idea person, and the twins just being the twins. They're a fun cast of characters. I like the nanny and her connection with them. She adds on to the idea of the found family trope. The humor is pretty funny when they go for a bit of a dark joke every so often. It was directed by the same guy who directed the second Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs movie, so it makes sense you get a feeling of that movie's general sense of silliness here. It's a fun film and a very beautiful looking one at that. It uses these unique textures that almost gives the movie a feeling of claymation. It can even use a frame rate that resembles it at time, with it being a bit more choppy in some movements. It kind of adds a nice bit of flavoring to it. I like it. It really looks nice. I like we're getting these movies that break the mold and do something pretty different with its animation and style. I will say, while it's a fun and unique movie, I do think it could have done some touch up on the pacing. We got some moments that run just a smidge longer than they feel they should. Like the movie probably could have shaved off 10 minutes. It's not really breaking the film or nothing, but it may be in the back of your mind. You get some scenes that felt like they probably could have played into the bigger whole of the film. But overall, this is a fun movie with nice heartfelt moments. You definitely will have a good time with the Willoughbys on Netflix. I definitely say give it a watch. And that's the end. Thank you for watching and make sweet love to that subscribe button. And be sure to tell me what you thought of some of these shows and movies in the comments. And always remember, it's just a thought.